Welcome to Digital Citizenship Week. We are so excited to celebrate digital wellness and digital citizenship within our county and beyond. So we're very excited today to have our keynote, Sophia Mendoza, who is the Director of Instructional Technology Initiative with LAUSD and also an ISD board member. And today we're going to be discussing creating a digital presence with purpose. So welcome. We have our Q&A in the chat. So as you are listening, if there are any questions or anything that you would like to contribute to the conversation, please feel free to use that feature. And we will go ahead and get started. I will share my screen so that way you can see the slides, and then we will get into our digital citizenship and creating a digital presence with purpose. So welcome, Sophia Mendoza.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jessica. All right, well, we're going to put up our slides so you have a little bit of context to follow along in today's conversation. And rest assured, we will make all of these resources available to you at the end of today's session. So as we move on, so yes, today it's all about digital presence with purpose. I am Sophia Mendoza, coming to you right down the highway here in Los Angeles. I am the director of the Instructional Technology Initiative. Now I think like in my 7th year. Wow, how time really flies. You can find me on Twitter. That's my handle. You can also find me on LinkedIn. If you do request a connection in LinkedIn, just let me know that you were at today's session. I'd be happy to connect with you. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you that my pronouns are she, her, and ella. I want to acknowledge the land that I am coming to you from. I am here in the city of Los Angeles, in which we know is the very historical land of the Fernandeño, Tatevian people and Tongva people. I want to pay my respects to our elders, both past and present, and I invite you to learn more about the land that you live on and who were the first people to inhabit that land. As we move on to our next slide, I'd like for us and for you to make your mark today as we begin our journey together, kicking off Digital Citizenship Week. I want to ask you to be bold. Leverage this opportunity that we're in today to expand your network. I know we're in a webinar, so take a peek at who is here, and we're going to keep the conversation going by being active. Please participate in today's conversation. I will be asking you some questions. I invite you to respond and to build on the ideas and questions that others in our session might be posing today. And of course, let's be collaborative. We're going to engage in today's learning via Twitter, and here are a few hashtags that we can utilize together. As we move on to the next slide, I'd like to start with an inclusion activity. Let's set the stage for our time together. I'd like for you to take it back to a time when you first experienced technology as a learner. Maybe this was with when you were in elementary school, when you were at home. So go ahead, take a moment and think about your first experience with technology as a learner, and go ahead and put that first experience in the chat. We'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. Whatever comes to mind, first and foremost, go ahead and pop that in the chat. All right. Oh, yes, I'm seeing some great ones. Some nostalgia is coming back here. Excellent. Yep. I see a lot that are familiar. Great. So while you're thinking about that, Just going to share with you a little bit. I am a former 4th grade educator, so a lot of the interactions that I have in our sessions, I really bring it back to how can we utilize some of these strategies in our own practice with our adult learners. Yep, Oregon Trail, definitely a Walkman. And look, this is where I started. So going back to when I was in the 3rd grade, this was my first interaction with technology. It was a Radio Shack TRS-80. So if you don't know, now you know. I welcome you to explore what the Radio Shack TRS-80 meant back in the 1980s-ish. So for me, it was the TRS, the Radio Shack TRS-80. You know, my teacher, when I was in the 3rd grade, brought this into the classroom and I was immediately hooked. I enjoyed creating loops where I would type in 10, print, quotation marks, whatever I wanted the computer to do, and then I would hit run. This experience really allowed for me to be a creator. I went on to build my own games where I would save them to my big 5-inch floppy disk. How many of you remember those? Well, don't be shy. It's okay if you don't remember those, or if you do. What I did not know then, what I do know now, is that this device served as a means to an end for me in my journey as a lifelong learner. Like many of you, my first experience with technology really shaped my curiosity for learning, and it built a foundation of skills and dispositions like critical thinking, problem solving, iteration. And all of these transcend any type of device or any platform. So, you know, the Radio Shack TRS-80 computer, it was not even connected to the internet. You know, the internet was around, but it wasn't accessible to the public in the early 80s. So let's start by putting some more context around our talk today. So just for some context, I want you to think about this moment in time. We are the first generation that will raise families and build communities simultaneously in both the physical and digital world. So, you know, I want you to really think about that concept. Again, we're the first generation doing this. This is a once in a generational experience. So as we move on, thank you. We can't do this work alone, right? We're going to need partners that are going to be walking this both physical and digital world together with us, right? We now in 2022, we live in a very connected world where we're connected to the internet wherever we go, right? It wasn't like when I was in the 3rd grade. We are living in 2 worlds. We have the physical and the digital world. You know, the physical world, of course, is where we all live. It's the playground where we take our children to. It's the grocery store where we stand in the 10 items or less line. It's our neighborhood where we take walks or ride our bikes. It's the world that our caregivers raised us in the last century. Our children are growing up in a highly digital world. You know, I like to call it this parallel universe, and we access it through computers, tablets, smartphones, wearable devices like smartwatches, and maybe even those virtual reality headsets. This dual citizenship really allows us to toggle between these 2 worlds seamlessly, and sometimes we don't even realize it. Many safeguards and practices are in place for our well-being and empowerment in the physical world. But how about in the digital world? Well, surprisingly, we as a community, and I'm including you all, we have put very little effort into making sure that we and our next generation are prepared to be not only safe, but empowered when we are living in the digital world. You know, as the mother of a preteen and a teen, preparing our next generation of digital citizens is personal for me. At the turn of the next century, my children will be in their 80s. What we do today will have an impact on the next 3 generations. So, time is of the essence to ensure that we are all prepared digital citizens, where collectively we as leaders can serve and become positive digital citizenship role models in our community. A digital citizen is one who practices cultivating a positive, authentic digital footprint that can be leveraged for college, career, and I might add, community success. So, who's with me? Who's with me? Do I see anyone in the chat there? Who is ready to cultivate a positive, authentic digital footprint that we can leverage for college, career, and community success? All right, I'll be checking on you. There we go. There we go. Great. So, who's ready to serve as a positive digital citizenship role model for our children, our youth, and for our communities? The work of raising children and youth to thrive in a digital world cannot be done alone. It is going to take all of us. As you can see here on this slide, I've listed 3 of the Gold Star organizations that are leading digital for good work today. They're leading it locally, nationally, and internationally. You see here the folks from Los Angeles Unified. We have partners at Common Sense Media, Common Sense Education, and the folks at ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education. And those are some of the primary resources I want to share with you today. Because when I first started learning about digital citizenship, I just searched and I went down a rabbit's hole and I didn't come up for a long time. And it wasn't until I found some of the premier organizations that led me to codifying these 3 Gold Star partners. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about LA Unified first. So in our next slide, Los Angeles Unified has been on a digital citizenship journey since about 2014. And locally, right here, LA Unified has created a digital presence with purpose framework to leverage for our 25,000 educators. We have 25,000 educators. Let's leverage them as positive digital citizenship role models. So I'd love to share this with you. So yourself, you are all educational leaders wherever you might be serving. In LA Unified, I was always hearing from my fellow colleagues, how fearful they were of sharing their digital presence. And I have to say, I felt the same way too. I was fearful of sharing my digital presence in public media spaces. I thought, wow, would I get in trouble for sharing my personal thoughts and learnings? And like I mentioned, in speaking with other educators and leaders, I found that I was not alone when it came to wanting to leverage my digital presence for good. Simultaneously, all this was happening at the same time. Our Board of Education members charged us with creating the first empowering social media policy for our students and for our employees. We gathered input from educators and from our community members. And as a result, we were able to curate a social media policy for all scholars and educators, where social media could be leveraged, get this, as an instructional tool and for thought leadership. This ultimately led to the creation of the Digital Presence with Purpose framework that you see right here. It's all research-based. It's a research-based process that supports positive and authentic engagement for leaders in social media spaces. And there are 3 components in establishing a digital presence with purpose. The first is sharing knowledge. What does that look like? Well, it looks like sharing information that you learn from a credible and reliable source. It might be an inspirational quote you hear from a keynote speaker at a recent event or conference. It also looks like maybe you want to level up and participate in a live social media chat where you share knowledge about a topic that you are an expert on. The second component of a digital presence with purpose is sharing evidence. This can be a photograph, an event that you attended with a relevant caption about your learning experience. It might be a picture of a meeting or a conference that demonstrates your further learning in a given topic that you are passionate about. And this gives you an opportunity to share your learning with others as a thought leader. And the third component is sharing resources. For example, maybe you read something very insightful. Maybe it was an insightful article or book. Share your thoughts about it. Maybe you discovered a helpful guide or video that others might learn from too. Go ahead and share it. Did someone's post resonate with you? Highlight their message by engaging with them. So I want you to think about your digital presence with purpose. Does your digital presence with purpose reflect sharing knowledge, evidence, and resources? So that's just a little bit about one of the frameworks that LA Unified utilizes when it comes to having a digital presence with purpose. So moving on to our next partners, and I know you're going to hear from them later on our next slide, wanted to share with you information from one of our strategic partners in LA Unified, Common Sense. And they are a not-for-profit. So if you haven't heard of Common Sense, look them up. If you don't yet, if you haven't, look them up. But if you have, I hope that this resonates with you. You know, on the national front, as we heard about the local, LA Unified, now on the national front, the not-for-profit Common Sense Media. This organization is a trusted guide for caregivers, families, and educators. There's a plethora of resources, everything from app reviews to mini lessons to community engagement. Common Sense Media, it really stands out for its Spanish language content for Latino families living in the digital age. Through their text balance service, Common Sense offers a no-cost text messaging. And these are tips on how to practice healthy media habits at home with your family. So I do have to let you all know, for the last 3 years, I have subscribed to this service where I receive bite-sized text messages about how to be more balanced with my own family. And to sign up, you're more than welcome to scan the QR code, and you can also send a message from your text messaging platform. It is 21555 from your cell phone, and you text the word kids. So it's 21555 from your cell phone, and just add the word kids. And they also have it in Spanish too. So again, I'll make sure that you get all of this information at the end of today's session. So again, I know that you're going to be hearing a lot more from our partners at Common Sense. So I'm not going to steal all their thunder, but they are an amazing partner. That's a great place to get started with your digital presence with purpose, and for your families as well. On the next slide, when we look at the international perspective, the International Society for Technology and Education, ISTE, is one of the international gold star leaders. You know, we're all living in this digital world, which means that we are global. The digital citizenship movement is international. And the good folks at the International Society for Technology and Education are leading the charge with digital citizenship competencies. And there are 5 in all. The first starting with being inclusive, right? Be open to hearing and respectfully recognizing all the multiple viewpoints. and engaging with others online and with respect and empathy. Number 2, you want to be informed when you're online. Evaluating the accuracy, perspectives, and validity of the digital media and social posts that you're engaging with. Number 3, being engaged. Using technology and digital channels for, get this, for civic engagement, to solve those tough problems and to be a force for good, both in the physical and in the virtual communities. Balanced. Number 4, my favorite, making those informed decisions about how to prioritize your time, your activities, both online and offline. And number 5, being alert. Be aware of your online actions and know how to be safe, and most importantly, how to create safe spaces for others online. Here in this video, we're not going to watch it, but I just left it here as a resource for you. That is the CEO of ISTE, Richard Collada. In his recent book, Digital for Good, he shares these 5 competencies for discerning between true and false information, how to treat others with kindness online, ways to use tech to strengthen family relationships and community connections, and when to exercise caution and create safe digital spaces for others. Also, how to understand when and how much tech use is healthy. So I welcome you to explore this video. On our next slide, I have a call to action for us. We always, come and participate in webinars and conferences, but when we leave, what do we leave with? What is our charge? So I have a call to action for you today. How might you cultivate a digital presence with purpose? One that shares knowledge, evidence, and resources. One that is inclusive of the digital citizenship competencies. Inclusive, informed, engaged, balanced, and alert. How can you utilize your digital presence with purpose to make your community better? It's making your voice heard by public policy leaders so that you can help shape public policy. It's engaging respectfully online with others who have different beliefs than you, and learning how to determine the validity of online sources of information. So now that we have our call to action, how will you cultivate your digital presence with purpose? So I'll give you maybe about 30 seconds. The first action, your first call to action, what will you be doing? I'd love to see you put that in the chat, and I'd love to see what will you be doing to cultivate a digital presence with purpose. Good. And I remember we're going to keep this conversation going. Yes, balance, perspective. Excellent. Great. As we see in the next slide, I shared a little bit earlier with you around a defined definition, what digital citizenship means. Here in LA Unified, we really came together with various stakeholders to craft our definition of digital citizenship. And it is the practice of cultivating a positive, authentic digital footprint that can be leveraged for college and career success. So also thinking about our educators and your career success. Okay. And as you prepare to cultivate your digital presence with purpose, I'd like to invite you, and we'll see on the next slide, a very special invitation for you, our educators, to join me on Saturday. It's not only me, but there are going to be experts in digital citizenship. We're going to have practitioners. We're going to have families. This is a come one, come all event happening Saturday, October 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, our time, West Coast time. I invite you all to join us, and guess what? It's a free event. So you'll have the link to join. It's at digcitconnect.org. I invite you all to join us as you create your digital presence with purpose. As I end my time with you this afternoon, I can't help but think about that third grade student that I was here in Los Angeles many years ago, and think about the youth here today in Los Angeles and in your county area. Think about the young adults across the nation and around the world. Let's ensure that they have the skills of digital well-being so that they become thriving digital citizens, and it all starts with us. So my last question to you is, what will you do to be a positive digital citizenship role model? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And we are going to keep that call to action going with a Twitter chat. And so we hope that you will contribute to that, that call to action on Twitter. Share with others. Make sure you share what you are going to do as well. So that way you are being engaging and you're helping other people to feel empowered to take next steps as well. So with that, as far as next steps, can you tell us how we can have a design for getting others on board with digital citizenship implementation?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because we leave professional learning, we're like super excited and we want to implement, right? So wherever you might be in your organization, really thinking about, the policies in your organization. If you have influence on your policies, how can you advocate for policies that are inclusive, policies that will kind of set the framework for your organization to start leading some of the work in digital citizenship? But if you don't have policies, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. I mentioned two of the partners, Common Sense Media, plethora of resources, as well as ISTE and their DigCit Connect. I'd also like to share with you, this is the website from my office here in Los Angeles Unified. This was not created by me. It was curated by practitioners, educators, principals, folks who are living and breathing digital citizenship every day. So I welcome you to explore this website. There even gives you some examples of what digital citizenship events could maybe look like in your organization.
And also I want to mention that we have a wakelet of resources for each guest speaker each day for our Digital Citizenship Week event. We'll be housing all of the links and everything that they have given us to help make us great examples and role models of digital citizens, to help with our digital well-being, and also to help our students be empowered digital citizens. So I will contribute all of the links that Sophia has been mentioning today onto that wakelet when you get a follow-up email. So anything you do see in the chat, if you don't get it fast enough or you exit and you forgot to get that link, it will be sent to you in the wakelet. I'm going to also put the link to sign up for Saturday's event, the Digital Citizenship Connect, for that free event on Saturdays. You could spend more time with Sophia, but I'm going to keep her here a little longer. I just want to get, you've had expertise in this and you've seen digital citizenship really roll out with your 25,000 educators in LAUSD. And so just getting your expertise and having you help us out today, I have a question for giving us an example of what digital citizenship looks like in action.
Yes, there's so many examples, everything from educators like you all becoming certified educators. And I know I don't want to step on Common Sense Media's thunder, but they have an amazing program where educators like us, we can become digital citizenship certified educators. It also looks like a school becoming a digital citizenship certified school by teaching a series of lessons, holding awareness, days for schools, a kickoff event, but mostly I shared with you earlier the digital citizenship dedicated website we have. There is a school called Maywood Center for Enriched Studies. It's the SPAN school. So they have 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. This school has created their own digital agents program where they look for issues in the community that they want to solve by utilizing technology. So I welcome you to visit that link to learn all about the Digital Agents program that exists here at one of our LA Unified schools. You know, it also looks like moving beyond safety, security, and privacy. Yes, having a strong secured password. Yes, check. Ensuring that we're being kind online. Yes, check. But how can we continue to move on and utilize our voice for good? How can we utilize it for civic engagement? So those are just some of the examples you'll find. Oh, and also, if you follow me on Twitter, I am passionate about retweeting our practitioners, our educators and our principals around digital citizenship and what it looks like. So please follow me there. Yes, and I would love to share with you more. Let's keep the conversation going.
I want to keep the conversation going. Again, leaning on your expertise as a district leader, what lessons have you learned when implementing digital citizenship programs that we might be able to learn from you?
Number one is you cannot do this work alone. You cannot do this work alone. You need to do this with strategic partners. There's a coalition for digital citizenship. So I highly encourage you to join the DigCit coalition. And you learned about the competencies earlier. Reach out to your families. Start having those conversations with your families now. This can be done at coffee with the principal, at the school sites. Maybe you're a district leader, your town hall meetings. It really will give you a pulse of what your community is thinking about and what is important to them. So definitely reach out to the partners. Talk with your families, your caregivers, your community. Find out what's important to them. Develop policies and keep learning. Like this weekend, I can't share with you and stress with you enough. Register for the DigCit Connect that's happening. And so you keep the learning going, keep up to date on some of the most recent research, some of the most recent practices that are happening around digital citizenship.
So speaking of digital citizenship, you've given us some really great suggestions as far as reaching out to families and really having a partnership of what are the concerns and addressing that. But besides that, where do we start? Like you said, that perspective you gave of having that duality of being in the physical and also in the digital world, and then how it affects what we are doing now for subsequent generations. That was a big aha moment for me. And I just appreciate that you broke that down. So realizing how important it is to teach our children, our students, to be empowered digital citizens, and to use what they're doing in these spaces for good. There is a lot of weight to that. And so where do we even start? Can you help us out with that?
You know, what you're doing today, this week in your county is the best step that you can do. You all are bringing awareness. let's just start there. That's huge. Launching a Digital Citizenship Week campaign to continue this conversation throughout the whole year. Starting an awareness campaign is essential for any change that you want to see happen in your organization. So you all are on the right path in San Bernardino, starting with an awareness campaign, just like this, Digital Citizenship Week. And if you're at a school site or in your district office, you don't have to wait for Digital Citizenship Week to start having this conversation. You can have it any day of the year. Just say we're going to do it and launch it. Start having the conversations, bringing about that awareness of why is this so important, which ultimately will lead to that desire, ultimately lead to more of that knowledge building, more professional learning, those conversations and that reinforcement. So, San Bernardino, you are all on your way building this big campaign around why digital citizenship is so important.
We greatly appreciate that. And also the resources that you've shared with the local, the national, and the international, just seeing that it takes a team and it takes resources to leverage and to pull to make this all happen. So the last thing is, I know I've had several questions for you, so I promise this will be the last one. But like you talked about, this awareness campaign, and we have this week that we get really excited, and we just want to keep that momentum going. So do you have any tips for us to just keep with this and to be diligent in our work?
One thing that I have found very successful in continuing this momentum throughout the year, because we've been at it for 8 years. This didn't happen overnight, so get ready. This is a long haul. One thing that I found very successful is spotlighting our educators, or I like to call them change agents. I love spotlighting our change agents. We have a monthly newsletter that opens up, and you know what, I'm going to invite you all to subscribe to our monthly newsletter. I'll get that link for you. This monthly newsletter opens up with a spotlight article spotlighting a practitioner who is leading, who is making change, everything from digital citizenship, the adoption of the ISTE standards, and computer science education. So I'm going to get that for you, because you know what, I didn't think to add that to my slides, because I really want to invite you all to the conversation in our newsletter. That's one way. We have a newsletter, and we're spotlighting educators who are the change agents. They're making the change, they're adopting digital citizenship practices. And why can't I find that? I'll find it right now. Oh, here it is, newsletter. That's one way. I talked about leveraging social media to bring about awareness, to share resources, share evidence, and share knowledge. Today I was visiting a school this morning, and get ready, because I'm going to be showcasing them and sharing how they are adopting digital citizenship practices. So really just continue to that reinforcement. If you see the change happening in your school site, in your district, highlight those educators. And here's one example of how we highlight our educators in a monthly newsletter. So I'd love for you to subscribe, continue to be part of the conversation. But yes, highlight those educators, those practitioners, or like I like to call them, those change agents who are adopting the digital citizenship practices and competencies.
I love that, because when people are putting in that effort, it really does kind of inspire other people when they see what's happening, and then it sparks that creativity, and you think, oh, I can kind of take what they did and use that, or change that, or add to that and make it my own. And then before you know it, you just have all these wonderful creative resources that teachers have modified to use with their kids and what works in their classroom and their school sites. So that is excellent. Well, we are just so excited to have you here kicking off our Digital Citizenship Week. Thank you for all of the resources. I've been grabbing them from the chat, so I'm going to just make sure that I didn't miss any. I'm putting them in that Wakelet, and we'll be able to send the Wakelet as a follow-up to this webinar, so that way you have the resources. There will also be a Twitter chat going on about the call to action. So thinking about how we will be able to continue that momentum and how we will also be good role models and consider all of those digital citizenship competencies in how we are modeling our own digital lives and digital well-being. So with that, any last words, Sophia, that you would like to share?
I just want to just give a big thank you to the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. Please know that LA Unified, we're your partners. We're just down the road from you, and I'm looking forward to further collaboration. And our LA Unified educators, principals, our community and family, they have really embraced digital citizenship. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do next.
Excellent. And I'm just double checking if there's any last comments or questions. Feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll also have a recording to this session, so that will be sent as well for a follow-up. So maybe if you are in the car and you are listening and you didn't get a chance to see some of the slides and some of those points, and you want to write them down or you just want to revisit them, we will make sure that we have that for you as well.